Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wills, Women, and Wealth podcast. I'm Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning and probate attorney, and I'm thrilled to have you with us today. We're here to empower women who value their health, their wealth, and the legacies that they're creating. This podcast covers various topics, including finance, law, mental and physical health, and more. We aim to provide you with valuable information, expert interviews, and educational episodes that answer your questions about wills, estate planning, and probate topics. Remember, this is a community, so please engage with us. If you have questions or topics that you'd like us to discuss, please reach out to us on social media or leave a comment below this episode. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. So please make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for our upcoming content. We would really appreciate you following the podcast and leaving us a 5-star review. That will amplify the podcast and gets it out to more people. Now, on with the show. I am really excited to bring you the guests that we're going to have on today. And let me tell you a bit about her. Marcella Mollon-Williams combines her passion for personal development and legacy building as a licensed behavioral financial advisor and co-founder of the Legacy Builder Group, LLC, which is a holistic coaching and investment firm, helping families build wealth with purpose. She's also a certified master mindset and cognitive behavioral coach, as well as a certified flexibility coach. With over 15 years of experience and a leading voice in the behavioral finance industry, Marcella provides a scientific approach to behavioral discipline that guides first-generation 6- and 7-figure earning households in consistently experiencing financial certainty by eliminating mental restraints around money and developing the behavior to grow and maintain a multi-generational family legacy. Marcella has received numerous awards and recognition in finance and entrepreneurship and has been featured on several media publications, radio and television, such as The Wall Street Journal, U.S. News and World Report, TLC, and NPR. Marcella was born in Trinidad and Tobago and was raised in and currently resides in Maryland with her husband of 26 years. She is the mother of 2 fabulous young adults. And by the way, if you follow Marcella on social media, you see that she has an amazing family. So without further ado, everyone, please welcome Marcella Mollon-Williams to the Wills, Women, and Wealth podcast. Welcome, Marcella.
Thank you so much for having me here, Elsa. I appreciate that warm welcome, and I am excited to be on the show. You know, I admire you. We've known each other. You know, we've connected for years, and I've watched just the wonderful work you're doing. So I'm truly grateful to be able to join you today. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to have you, Marcella. So let's get right into it. Why are you so passionate about being a behavioral financial advisor? And if you can share, as a follow-up, if you can share your personal journey and what led you to this particular profession.
Sure. So my passion starts from probably childhood, but I won't take you on the long journey. From a child, I was a people watcher. I was fascinated with why people did the things they did. You know, why do we do the things we do? And I just observed human behavior. I eventually, because I grew up in a family business, I was, and a Caribbean family, it was, oh, you have to do finance. I'm like, okay. But psychology was my first love and will always be my first love because of my fascination with human behavior. So after years in the financial industry, starting off with my family business, then eventually my brother and I formed Legacy Builder Group based off of our desire to grow in our knowledge of money and finance. We founded Legacy Builder Group over 15 years ago. And through that, my desire to work with people and people's behavior continued to grow. And as we included with the traditional financial planning, coaching along with that. And so years later, as the industry evolved and there was more understanding around behavioral economics, or started to develop, because we're still trying to understand that the industry is still growing in that direction. But as I continue to fuel my passion for human behavior in other ways, it finally, it came to that point in life, and you have to be so grateful when life comes together and forms this harmony where your passion and your desires come together. So here I am with all these years of experience in finance, and the industry is evolving, and there's more and more information out there about behavior, financial behavior. And I'm starting to see where my loves collide and finding my true self, my fit, who I know I was always created to be in the area in which I was able to serve. This is where I knew I needed to serve. And that's where I was able to really land in this field of behavioral financial advice, which is a combination of the traditional finance along with neuroscience and psychology. And so now I am able to work with individuals, both Mark and I in our firm, able to guide individuals to create comprehensive financial plans that, as you stated earlier, help them build wealth with purpose and find meaning behind the money. And with that, there is just so much more fulfillment, so much more joy, and so much more you can do when those elements collide. So I absolutely love being able to help people understand themselves better, why they do what they've been doing with money, and how to make a shift as they desire it.
Wow. No wonder we hit it off so well. Your purpose aligns so much with what I try to do, not only with the podcast, but with my legal practice. And it's another reason why the topic that we're going to cover today, I'll put it on the screen, it's lasting legacies, how to create a thriving multi-generational family culture, is so timely. And it's just the perfect topic for you and I to really dive into today.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to focus on this particular aspect of financial advising?
You know what? I have to say that over time, as both Mark and I, my brother, as we were working with individuals, and then I spent time, as you know, managing with my daughter's career, who became a young entrepreneur at a very young age, a best-selling author at 13, a TED Talks speaker at 13.
I told you, everybody, just follow her on social media.
Yes, and now she's working with us in our program, and she's brilliant. And being able to work with her and doing interviews, podcast interviews like this, I would share information about my family history. And I began to realize that, wait a minute, this is not normal. People are not viewing my story as normal. 6 generations of entrepreneurs, it's not normal. Growing up in a family where we don't fight about money, where assets have been passed down peacefully, where my mother had 13 brothers and 13 siblings. And when it was time for businesses to be passed along, everything happened peacefully and harmoniously and in unity. So as I shared stories, I realized, you know what? I want to normalize this behavior. Like, why do we accept what that dysfunctional, toxic family behavior. That's the norm. I don't believe that. I didn't see that. And I don't think that we're so special that we're the only family that can operate this way. We're not the only ones that have been able to operate in a way where we've been able to pass down financial assets and intellectual assets alike. But it is, especially in, certain communities, my community, our community, there is this thing where it's not normalized. So that is a driving factor for both Mark and I to be able to serve families in a way where we are speaking about situations that they desire and helping them to recognize that it is possible for you. You can be the legacy builder. You can be the chain breaker. You can develop something new for your family.
Marcella, and in guiding families and guiding individuals, to the other side, and our entire conversation is going to go in phases of how you actually do this. But would you agree that one of the first things we have to do is identify what the obstacles are, where the pain points are, right? And to that extent, in your experience, what are some of those common challenges or obstacles that elders in particular face when trying to communicate with the younger generations about financial matters?
Yes. And we hear this all the time. And I say you and me, I know we both do. And that is, within that communication, for so many generations, talking about money is just not something that's done. You don't talk, it's taboo. And we often talk about that no talk rule. It is that rule that's established among family members that no one is going to talk about money, or anything in particular. I always say the two things that are really function around the no talk rule are sex and money. And people don't want to talk about those two things, So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, especially when it comes to elders passing down important information, like where are the policies, where are all the financial documents kept. It's being open enough and allowing ourselves to say, okay, let's change the narrative. Let's actually communicate. That intergenerational communication must be developed and nurtured. Mm-hmm. And if we look, I think intergenerational communication is a challenge across the board. But in the areas of finance, money, and legacy planning, that part, we really can't afford to let that be an issue.
And now, practically, how do you suggest improving our lexicon and addressing those taboo topics within families when it comes to those financial discussions?
I think that could be the challenging part, even knowing where to start. That's why we do have a checklist that I know we will be giving away to your audience, but we have a legacy checklist that just provides questions that every family member should be having. Starting to just sit down over food, over having meals together, and just bringing up conversations about, not about money, but about the legacy that we want to leave. Once we start talking to one another, so let's say the individual, because sometimes the younger individual, the younger generation has an expectation for the elders well, you should just be able to tell us what we need to know. And it doesn't work that way. So as the younger generation, we also have a responsibility to communicate, and it can start with asking questions. Asking them to share stories about what was important to them growing up, what they saw, what grandma, what did you hear about money? Did your parents ever talk about that? Start, stimulating the conversation, but not in direct ways of, so where do you keep your documents? Sometimes that can sound very threatening. So again, start with peaceful, harmonious family conversations. Even in family reunions is a great time to nurture these type of conversations, and then have it schedule it, have it a part of a family tradition, create a family tradition around communication.
Now I want to pivot to our, I guess, preconceived notions, good or bad, regarding wealth. And sometimes those preconceived notions themselves can be a barrier. How do you guide individuals and families in overcoming these preconceptions when you find that it's a barrier for their growth?
Yes, and that could be such a challenge, especially for first generation high income earner, that family member, first generation legacy builder. That is something that must be confronted upfront, being able to be, realistic about where is my money mindset? Where am I? What are the limiting beliefs I may have and hold that's holding me back? So very often I like to start with really work with the individual and help them to identify what do they want, which can be so challenging all by itself to just determine what you want. And it is because of some of those preconceived notions, especially as women. Even asking that question, it can be, it almost puts guilt on you there. And understanding what you want, even being able to confront that question, and then dealing with, wait a minute, how does what I want tie to my limiting beliefs around what I want, the wealth, the things that money can buy, what I actually want money for. It is sometimes just about chipping away at layers and layers, years and years of habit patterns that have been burned into our brain. It took us years. All the years. If I'm talking to a 39-year-old, I'm starting with that process. It took them 39 years to be conditioned to think the way they think. And that's where I'm coming in with that understanding of, look, this is the reality of it. Let's face where we are and then create a shift to where you want to be. So it is a process.
My whole mission and the mission of the firm is empowering women through estate planning, and a big part of that education is the mindset piece.
Yes.
And particularly because even though I help everyone, but the sweet spot is for women.
Yes.
Because we have been neglected in, as reflected in the marketing and both, your industry and finance and mine and estate planning. And we've often felt like we are not worthy enough, whether we articulate it or not, that we are not worthy enough to plan for ourselves. We do so much for others. But as I tell my clients, it's about you. You're worth protecting, aren't you? And then I just kind of pause and let that marinate. It's like you're worth it. You're worth it. So now I know, and that in itself, I'm so loving speaking with you because we can just go on an entire another hour just on that.
Financial worthiness. That's a whole
financial worthiness, which I know you talk about extensively. So now that we've identified the obstacles, now let's talk about how we get people to the other side, right? So in doing that, I imagine that you get people to define their values, their core values. How do you do that? Helping them to establish those core values when it comes to wealth and legacy.
Yes. And again, that plays an important role. So as I talked about previously, really confronting what they want and the limiting beliefs, we refer to as money demons very often, and switch and making that shift from money demons to guardian belief, a guardian belief system. And in order to do that, a huge part of it plays a role in that core value, the core values that tie into what you want and who you are, who you've been created to be. Core values aren't something you make up. They show up in our lives every day, whether we recognize it or not. When we make a decision that feels great, that leaves us in peace, especially a financial decision, we are most likely tapping into a core value. And when we make a financial decision that's left with regret, shame, discomfort, It's probably because you made a financial decision that went against your core value. So the power is in the knowing. When you don't know what your core value, when you don't know what your core values are, you're kind of operating at a whim. And so taking the time, the first step Mark and I do when we work with our clients is I go through a values assessment with them. And I help them identify their 5 core values and their purpose for money. With that, showing them how to use your core values as I call like the guide, the rails on the road, those guardrails, keeping you straight and in alignment, feeling more fulfilled and at peace with the financial decisions that need to be made. So when you're building your legacy, when they're meeting with you and they are going through their estate planning, all of this needs to be tied into their individual core values. And then when we get to the next level, it's tying into your family legacy values, which is a process that we take them through one of our programs. But it is all about getting crystal clear on what matters to you first, the individual, put the oxygen mask on first, and then the family. So that's building the family culture right there.
Wow. During show prep, you and I talked about a global news tragedy that, interestingly, that tragedy helped to identify some of the issues that you deal with your clients in terms of money mindset and how we view others with money or without. Could you share with the audience a bit about that and your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think most people who were, who were around for, I think that was about a year ago. I'm not even sure how long ago it was, but it was a big news story about a submersible, the small submarine device that went under and was lost. There were about, I think, 4 or 5 individuals in there. It became a really big story where the father and son were involved. And when that news story is going around, I do what I like to do, and I like to read comments on social media because it really gives me an idea of the pulse of where our society is, some of the things we're thinking. And I am able to find so much money behavior information in those comments. And I remember reading one comment, and the person said, regarding this news story of lost people, who the F cares about rich people? And that spoke volumes about that person's mindset. And I think a lot of people felt that way. It showed up so much because these individuals had money, because you had to have a certain amount of money to even be on board in that vehicle. It reframed our mindset around the value of their life. And I found it fascinating because very often when I take individuals through an exercise and I'm having them confront those money demons, we say things like, oh, yeah, I want to make a lot of money. I want to be successful. And yet the way we view wealth, wealthy people, wealthy lifestyles is negative. We detach ourselves and our humanity from wealth. So you would look at a very wealthy person and think and remove their humanity. And now we're telling ourselves, well, we want to be successful. We want to be wealthy. Well, how is that going to make sense to your brain as it's processing the fact that, well, we don't like wealth, do we? We don't like wealthy people. So why would you want to be one? And there's the limiting belief. You are blocking yourself when you're not really being able to confront and be realistic about how you actually feel about money, building wealth, again, especially as someone who may be the first person in your family to build wealth, how it may cause your family members to view you, because how do y'all sit around the table talking about people with money, celebrities? How judgmental are we? And how does that reflect on us and our desire to build a lasting legacy. If we're talking about families with money, negatively.
Hmm.
So we have to, sometimes it can hurt. Sometimes it stings a little, but we have to be honest with ourselves.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And I want to go back for a second to your reference to replacing demons with guardian beliefs. That is a very intriguing concept. Could you share some of the practical steps or just examples of how you achieve, how individuals achieve this transformation by working with you?
Yeah, so I go through a step-by-step process of really recognizing where your limiting beliefs are. So, for instance, if you're a person that is making six, seven figures, one of the issues that may be a limiting belief or issue that you have about money is taxes, right? It's, oh, I hate taxes. I hate the amount of taxes I have to pay. There's a complaint there. If you
Mm-hmm.
really want to see where a limiting belief is or where those money demons come up out, it's in your complaining. So when we're complaining about something financial, bills, having to, whatever you have to pay, whatever that's it revolves around money, that is leading, that is a condition and a symptom of a money demon. So we have to first recognize that and reflect on, well, where's that coming from? Did I hear that growing up? Do I hear that in my circles?
Mm.
And then I help individuals to reframe that mindset. And that's when we start replacing, because you can't, so often we think we could just, oh, let me just stop thinking this way. Let me just eliminate it. It's not as simple as that. It's not about eliminating, it's replacing. We have to take what was there and replace it with something more substantial. And that's the guardian belief system. So, and it happens by reframing our mindset. So using taxes as an example, you can shift from, oh, I hate paying taxes to, you know what, I'm a citizen of this country. I'm grateful to be able to contribute to the things that matter, that help us to remain free and live the life that I get to live, less potholes and that type of thing. So it's about reframing and finding gratitude in some of the complaints. And you have to be so intentional and mindful of this process. And once you are in those guardian beliefs are framed, then you can take the actions in moving forward to remembering to pay the taxes and doing your part and putting that aside so that you're not hit with a large bill at the end of the tax season. So it's the process of replacing the money demon with a guardian belief system that allows you to take action that at the end of the day feels far more fulfilling and makes money more purposeful.
Marcella, when it comes to taxes, and I just want to stop there for just a quick second. And yeah, because for most people, the default is, right. Like, oh, great, no, but would you agree that another way of reframing it is that the increased tax bill is an indication of that you are generating more?
Yes.
You are more revenue. If you're a business owner like me, it's an indication that you're bringing in more revenue.
Yes.
And as a result, more taxes, so that it's an indicator.
Absolutely.
Right.
I would say celebrate the new tax bracket.
Right. Exactly. You're growing into, or you're sometimes leapfrogging into a new tax bracket. So yeah, it's just the mindset is so powerful.
Yes, absolutely, Elsa. That's well said.
Oh my goodness. So now, we've talked about the pain points. We talked about the process you follow in getting an individual or a family to the other side, to on the sunny side of financial wealth building. So now let's talk about this developing family culture and identity, which is a really big part of what you do. So the first thing is creating a foundation, right? Creating a foundation for sustained wealth. What steps do you recommend for families looking to create that so important foundation?
Yes. So we talked about establishing and being clear on the mindset and not bringing any baggage, from any limiting beliefs from prior history into
Mm,
this new area. So that's a huge part of the foundation, breaking generational cycles.
mm,
And so when we can deal with that in order to sustain the financial assets, okay, that's where we start. That's how you can sustain. Now, building upon that strong foundation is being able to set up systems, financial systems that will help build multi-generational wealth. And having the knowledge, having the team like you and I, who can work with individuals in developing one concept that Mark and I help individuals build as a family bank or a legacy bank. And it's a way of, and it's a conceptual bank, but it's a way of building multi-generational wealth using vehicles, tools, strategies, and tax structures in order to be able to pass down the wealth that you earned, that you worked hard for, and being able to really determine and dictate how others in the family will benefit from it. So tying in, so really working with individuals to understand the financial structure, which again, eliminating the self-sabotage behavior
mhm.
is key to in order to sustain. We can talk about building wealth and having money, but we all understand that if we look at any lottery winner, I mean, we understand that that doesn't work. You can't just dump money into someone's lap and expect, oh, right, I have generational wealth now. It doesn't work that way. It is a system. It's systems that need to be in place, operations in which we can learn the behavior. It's the behavior that will build the legacy, not just the money.
Marcella, I've heard you talk about intellectual assets and how they play into family history. Because could you help us to understand what you mean when you talk about intellectual assets, and how can families integrate those intellectual assets as well as knowledge of their family history into creating a financial strategy?
So, and that's great, and I'm so glad you asked that question, and even in something that you brought up earlier. So let me start with intellectual assets and what I mean by intellectual assets. You even mentioned the family history, and I like to look at it as four components. It's the knowledge, resources, mentality, and experiences that one generation is able to pass to the next. Those, just by hearing those words, knowledge, resources, mentality, and experiences, we can understand how important it is to pass that information down with the money. I have a saying that, I just really believe that money by itself, an inheritance can destroy a person, but a legacy can elevate a family.
Mm,
And that's why I talk about legacy wealth. I define legacy as how other people will experience your existence.
mm,
Okay. And if you really hone in on that, people will experience your existence through your intellectual assets that you pass down and through the financial assets that you pass down, both now while we're still present and long after I'm gone, long after we're gone. So when I'm having, for my example, when I'm having conversations with my children, that I understand, they are they're very knowledgeable about what is important to me and the legacy that we are building as a family, and how we are to pass down those intellectual assets along with the financial assets. And that could be done, like I said earlier, conversation of communication. Again, that intergenerational thing we talked about, full circle right here. This is key to being able to understand what is important, passing down the values. And one of the most powerful ways that we teach and that we've done with our family is by creating a family crest.
Mm.
And it embodies a lot of our intellectual assets. And I'm actually wearing my crest. Each of our family members, we have a family crest. And it's something that I developed when my children were very young, because I recognized the need of developing a family, multi-generational culture that would tap into one of the basic needs as far as Maslow hierarchy of needs for humans, and love and belonging. When young people and when we all are seeking love and belonging, creating a family culture that allows them to desire the family history, allows them to desire the knowledge and the resources and the mentality and experiences of their elders, is so powerful. It keeps them centered as young people, and it keeps them focused. And that is really how we're able to pass down those intellectual assets, by tapping into in our choice, a crest, and teaching families how to use a family crest as a visual symbol of the intellectual assets that can be passed down, and then establishing that with the financial assets so that everything flows in harmony, in peace, and in unity. And I know I said a mouthful there, so I'm fine with breaking it up.
Listen, if you all, ladies and gentlemen, if you are listening to this on the go or whatever, play it again. I know I will. I know I'm going to go back and listen to this again, because there's so many wonderful nuggets here. And just as a reminder, we are talking about lasting legacies, how to create a thriving multi-generational family culture. I'm here with behavioral financial advisor Marcella Mollon-Williams, who is an expert, well known in the community on this subject. And yeah, this is, like I said, we could just go on and on. How do you, in the services that you offer, which are quite a few, you also have a master class. I believe it's a 3-day master class, as well as others. You also have a 12-month program. Could you just give us some insights on what programs you offer to help individuals and families, these 6- and 7-figure earners who just need that guidance, need that support system?
Yes. So with Mark and I, we always believe in giving back to the community. Obviously, we run a business, but what we try to do is give what we can, give as much as we can, because I always have a saying, you can't outgive God. So,
Amen.
that is important to us. So the masterclass is a complimentary 3-day course that we teach. And it allows people to tap into at no cost and get a glimpse of the 12-month program that we offer and begin the learning. And we pour a lot into those 3 days. And we offer a bonus class, so it's more like 4 days of tapping into how to develop that mindset, as we talk about today, to sustain financial growth. So I begin the process of helping individuals understanding those limiting belief systems and how to build and grow from there. And then we tap into the multi-generational wealth system. We talk about historic facts and families, how they benefited and how some did not benefit because they did not have the system in place. So I think that's a wonderful class that really taps into what wealthy people have been doing for their history of their family. They've been tapping into that multi-generational wealth system and how we have the tools and strategies to be able to do that today. And then we also go into more detail as to how to develop that family culture. Talking about the family crest, I share a bit more about how you can also really start implementing some of the details and developing the communication and intergenerational communication. So we go through that, and then the bonus class I like to add is that we talk about financial decision making with confidence. And that can be huge for a lot of us. And especially since this podcast is, directed towards women, I always have to help. I always want to talk to my ladies, and not that men don't have this struggle as well, but just historically, because the financial industry was not easily available for women for so many, decades, that women often struggle with confidence when it comes to financial decision making. So I really like to talk about, well, let's understand why. Let's understand the psychology around that. And so that we can overcome some of those situations and how it can benefit us all, husbands, wives, man, woman, all of us, how we can benefit, and then how we can pass that on to our children as well. So the masterclass is about really helping you build that multi-generational wealth in a way that provides more fulfillment and freedom and abundance. And it makes sense. And then that leads to our family legacy experience.
That's wonderful. It sounds life-changing. Really, so the term that came to my mind, it's life-changing. So Marcella, as we wrap up, can you recap some of the key insights in our discussion today? What are some main takeaways that you'd like our audience to remember?
I think from our conversation, it's being willing to confront your current money mindset, the limiting beliefs, the family language or lack of communication around money. We cannot conquer what we don't confront.
Ooh. Ooh. Wow, I just need to let that breathe for a minute. We can't conquer what we won't confront.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And that really plays an even more important role for, again, our first generation wealth builders. There's a lot to confront there because it's such a huge shift from where you were to where you're going. So that's one aspect of what I want individuals to take away from this conversation. Also, I would say require more from your team, your financial team. And I say this because I know, and we talked about here, Elsa, is that so often people come to you, come to myself to get the financial tasks done that they were told that needs to be done as a responsible adult. There are these things you have to put in place. But what we don't realize is that we, as financial professionals in our area, and what we like to add is that element of coaching you and helping you through the baggage that you're bringing along with it. And you talked about that earlier, Elsa. We're here to support and to hold your hand through the process. So removing any sense of shame, unworthiness, this notion of, oh, I should already know this. I should know more than this. Eliminate that and come to us with open hearts and willingness to learn, and with the expectation that we are here to serve you and to serve you from a place of compassion and respect, no matter where you are in approaching these concepts for the first time. So I think that's really important for people to understand how to approach us. And then to be very intentional, about the legacy that you're building. I always want people to understand the power that we hold, the power to shift. And you've heard me say this over and over again in this interview, and I repeat things on purpose because, repetition is the key to mastery. So understanding that you have the power to break generational cycles. That's not just some kind of cute saying. I mean that, and I know you mean that, Elsa. We see that. We see the shift. So I want individuals to understand how powerful they are And with that, operate with intentionality in the words that they speak to their family, in the decisions that are made, and in the plans that are taken to build your legacy.
Wow. Yeah. Marcella, you're just outstanding, is the word that I always think that comes to mind when I think of you, and the work that you do. You are so authentic, you are transparent, and you truly have a heart for service. And those are, I believe, so many reasons why you and I hit it off, because we do what we do. Yes, we are business women. Yes, we are business owners, but we believe in a higher calling of service. And what we do is part of our respective legacies. That was what will speak of us and about us when we are no longer on this earth. So I so appreciate your spirit, your presence, your expertise, that you so willingly share, with all of us. How can people get in touch with you, Marcella, please?
Yes, I am throughout social media. So let me start with my website. You can find me at www.marcellamwilliams.com.
Mhm.
And throughout social media, Marcella M. Williams on Instagram, Facebook, Marcella Mollon-Williams on LinkedIn. If you want to know more about our program and our upcoming events, I encourage you to join our Facebook community. Then you can find that it's the Legacy Builder Group for first generation millionaires, because we speak those things and those individuals in that group are passionate about building legacy wealth. So join us in that community. I go live every Tuesday, to help you elevate your money mindset. And you can find the information about the legacy program at familylegacyexperience.com. And that's the 12-month program where we are diving into coaching, money behavior, multi-generational wealth, everything that I talked about, but really providing you with the mindset tools to provide you with fulfillment and purpose and impact. That's what we just talked about. You just said it, impact.
Love it.
That's the key to legacy. So you can, again, locate me just about anywhere. You put in my name, you'll find me.
And everyone, all of the links Marcella referred to, the social media links as well as her website, they will be available in the show notes. Marcella, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so gracious with your time and expertise. It's really been a pleasure having you on the podcast. And everyone, remember, the choices you make today echo through generations. So I ask you, what legacy will you leave behind? And that's really at the core of what Marcella and I have been talking about today, challenging you in the privacy of your own mind to ask yourself, what legacy will you leave behind? The power to decide lies in your hands. And again, everyone, Marcella Mollon-Williams, I encourage you to support her on YouTube, on social media, subscribe, follow her. I certainly have and will continue to do so. Everyone, we assist families in Maryland and the District of Columbia through the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, who are trying to get started with their estate planning, or perhaps are trying to refresh estate plans from long ago that need refreshing because laws change and family situations change, right? We can help you do the same. I invite you to schedule a complimentary 15-minute call with a member of our team. There's absolutely no obligation, and we are here to help. And the link to that will be in the show notes as well. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of the Wills, Women, and Wealth podcast. Until next time, this is Attorney Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning and probate attorney. Stay informed, stay empowered, and take control of your legacy.